So let's start with the women who set out for the Democratic nomination this year. Is there a ceiling in the minds of perhaps delegates and the public that makes it unsurmountable for the U.S. to actually be comfortable electing a woman president?
Well, I don't think that it's an issue of what the party has, the parameters that the party has set around debates and in the election. I do think that there's something deeper in the psyche of the average American, unfortunately. There's still misogyny in the United States, and this still is a patriarchy, unfortunately.
So then what's your take on some of the trends that we've seen with women in U.S. politics, from Hillary Clinton to obviously Elizabeth Warren essentially losing her momentum and then dropping out?
Yes, hearts all over the country were breaking last week when Warren dropped out of the race, women as well as men. It was really unfortunate, but honestly, Rachelle, I'm very optimistic. Although there is no woman right now running for president, which is really a tragedy, two things make me optimistic. One, issues that matter to women have been brought to the forefront in this election. For instance, one of Kamala Harris's plans about Black mother mortality was swept up by Joe Biden. Also, women have been running these campaigns. It's been nice to see women, especially women of color, running campaigns. You saw that a lot in my home state of South Carolina. So those are the two things that really make me optimistic about women in politics.
Now, what about this idea that you can't be one or the other? We saw Elizabeth Warren talking about if you don't complain, then you're considered, complacent and perhaps removed, and if you do complain, you're a whiner from how you dress. How are women supposed to make headway in that environment?
It's really unfortunate. Women are held to a different standard than men. No one was asking Pete Buttigieg what tie he was wearing, or who cared what shoes he was wearing. It's unfortunate that women have to go through that, but I do think that with Hillary's campaign in 2016, and then this campaign, which had so many women on the stage, which was great to see, we are making progress. It's slow, but it is sure.
So let's talk about some of the barriers. What can national organizations like the DNC and the RNC really do to knock down some of the barriers that come with women trying to get into politics, or perhaps getting to that top spot as president?
Well, I think that there are programs in place now that are starting to train women to run for office and train women as political operatives. And I think that more funding and more attention placed in those programs is going to be helpful to craft that next generation of women leaders in this country.
And what about women themselves? What is it that stops them, or what do they see as the biggest barriers when it comes to putting themselves forward for some of these political positions?
I think women truly have never seen it before, and I believe that sometimes if you can't see it, you can't be it. And women like Elizabeth Warren and Hillary Clinton and Klobuchar and Kamala Harris are women who are stepping out regardless of that, and that's something that I hope we'll continue to see.
Now, we are still seeing, obviously, a surge in women in Congress. Do we tend to see then a lot more focus on the policies and the rules that really support women and their issues when you do have more women represented?
Absolutely. It's important for women to be at the table. It's impossible for us to get programs and policies passed in our favor if we aren't part of the policy-making process.
Now, in terms of the proportion of women that are leading countries around the world, I mean, obviously, in the UK, we saw with the parliamentary system, we were able to get Margaret Thatcher elected. Is it a case that parliamentary systems perhaps lend themselves better, since it's not a direct vote, it's sort of the party gets elected and then the party picks?
Well, you won't be able to get me to say that the parliamentary system is better than good old US of A. I do think that there is a space here for women leaders. I do think that we'll see a woman president in my lifetime.
What do you think it's going to take to get there, though?
I think that it's going to take a woman vice president this time. I think that if Joe Biden, who I think is going to be the Democratic nominee and eventually president of the United States, the 46th president of the United States, I think when he picks a woman vice president, she will have a clear path to the presidency.
And so just lastly, what do you think would discourage women who, obviously, they've seen people get so close. They've seen Warren get closer. They've seen, of course, Hillary Clinton get the closest. What sort of message would you like girls who want to get into politics? What should they take away from what they're seeing and some of the sort of the disheartening moments that they're seeing?
I think that they should listen to the things that Kamala Harris and Elizabeth Warren said when they did drop out of the race. They weren't outrageously discouraged. There was still a tinge of hope, and they still look to the youth and the future of our country. I think that they should really listen to those inspirational words and watch that these women are not stopping. They're continuing to fight. They're continuing to make policy. And that's what will be the inspiration for the future.
Certainly very important to see. Thank you so much. Rasheedah Thomas there, principal and co-founder at RC Communications.